Welcome to Monster Sketch Theater Episode 1. I've been a fan of monsters and creatures and the macabre ever since I was a kid, so I thought it'd be fun to share this passion of mine by recording my Sunday creature sketches. Sunday is usually a day where I have some free time to do whatever I want, and for me, that usually involves sketching the weird things that pop in my brain from time to time. This particular weird thing is a ghoul. I never really knew exactly what a ghoul was, just some creepy undead creature. So I googled it and I found out that ghouls like to hang out in graveyards and eat people, so I wasn't too far off. They presumably eat dead people. Not too many living people hang out at cemeteries at night, but I don't imagine they would pass up a fresh person should they walk by. Or maybe they prefer their meat aged. I read somewhere that beef is often aged to allow enzymes to break down the muscle tissue. Apparently it makes it more tender and tastes better. So perhaps that's why they hang out in cemeteries instead of dark alleys or attics or even underneath children's beds. Although they could kill people and drag them off to a nice safe spot for a few days to let them ripen, then go back later when they're perfectly aged. Like a squirrel looking for its nuts. Though I read gray squirrels bury nuts all over the place, but often forget them. So it could be that when the police find a body in a shallow grave, it's not the work of some demented serial killer, but just a ghoul forgot where to place his dinner. Speaking of eating, as I designed this thing, I want to make sure that it has teeth for tearing flesh, sort of like a crocodile, only scaled down. But I want them to look really sharp, so I have to keep them thin and needle-like. I like the idea that these ghouls would rip pieces of flesh off their victims and then gulp them down without chewing. And maybe as they're doing this, they have strange head jerks and weird contortions as they try to work this piece of flesh down the back of their throats. Kind of like a Komodo dragon eating, if you've ever seen that. I wanted to keep this interpretation of a ghoul very much a humanoid. Maybe they all are, I don't really know. But I think it's a lot creepier this way. It introduces the idea of cannibalism, which freaks me out. If it was more of a beast, it still might be scary, but it wouldn't have the same creep factor, at least to me. I also feel like this thing should crawl along the ground. It has more of a savage vibe that way. It eats dead people, so it wouldn't really need to be stealthy or anything. I just like the way it looks. Though, as we were thinking earlier, they might still grab an occasional living person. Perhaps they crawl really fast, or maybe they move slowly until they're ready to attack. Then they pounce on their unsuspecting prey in the blink of an eye. Maybe they live underground themselves, and at night they surface to bask in the moonlight or look for their sweethearts, or just search for food, which is probably the most likely scenario. I imagine that they would seek out fresh graves. It'd be a lot easier to dig up the bodies because the soil hasn't been packed down yet, but further research is probably needed on this. It seemed obvious to me that the flesh should be pale. I figured they're nocturnal, like most monsters seem to be, so they wouldn't get much sunlight. And seeing as how it hangs out with dead people, I thought it might be kinda cool if their skin looks a little bit corpse-like. Though not actually decaying, just enough to tie it to the dead bodies. so I think we're here. It's the witching hour, and our ghoul just came upon a group of agitated compatriots squabbling over a freshly uprooted corpse. It's probably been up all night scavenging for food, but with the lack of fleshy bits stuck in his teeth, we can assume it came up empty. So it's more than ready to join the fray in hopes of procuring itself a meal. Thanks for joining me on this ghoulish journey. See you next time.